Today I'm going to show you how to paint white daisies. Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch, watercolor artist, teacher and a book author. Welcome to my studio. When we thinking about painting white flowers on white paper, that already sounds complicated, but what we see in the nature, white is not really white, it's different shadows of gray, yellow and many other colors. So let's mix a perfect gray. Sometimes it's just enough if you have some used palette and you mix everything from your palette. Usually that will be a perfect gray, but I will show you the other way if you don't have anything at your hand. To mix a perfect gray, we use three primary colors: yellow, red, I have gumbosh yellow, I have permanent red, and blue. I have two blues, phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. I will use ultramarine blue because I like it granulated effect. You need to find that proportion between all three paints when you really can't identify any of the color, whether it is more reddish, whether it's more yellowish, whether it's more bluish. And it's practical to test on a piece of paper. That looks a bit warm, so I will add again a bit more of ultramarine blue to make it more and more neutral. Get in there, get into the gray. It's important that we would not switch to super blue. And now let's try and test how it will look diluted. It looks nice. About this. I think that will work for our daisies. So now we have this grayish mix, which is very far away from white delicate daisies, right? But then I grab my mix and I dilute it, just squeezing the water and stirring it. And then I'm getting to some nice grayish, light grayish mix. Now remember, we have diluted gray mix right here. I will use my second brush for painting yellow parts, the yellow middles of daisies. I will use my gumbosh yellow, cadmium yellow will also be good. So one of your neutral yellows, bright yellows. And let's start to paint. Firstly, I will set up the middle, just some dotted, some small little dots, the middle one, and then I switch my brush, I grab my diluted gray mix and I will touch the yellow part with the tip of my brush, and then I apply pressure on my brush and then I release the pressure. It's very practical to use paper towel to remove excess water. But now let's do another petal, bathing my brush in my grayish mix, touching the yellow part, tip of the brush, pressure on the brush, and release the pressure. Again, bathing my brush in the mix, touching the yellow area with the tip of the brush, apply pressure, release the pressure. Once again, try to move your wrist in different directions, tip of the brush, belly of the brush, release the pressure. Oh, I accidentally went into my bold mix, but should be fine. And let's, while this dries, let's paint another daisy, which will be more tilted to us. So let's paint the middle, yellow dotted lines like this. Switching brushes, bigger brush, grayish mix. I begin to, from the tops, tip of the brush, belly of the brush, release the pressure. Tip of the brush, belly of the brush, release the pressure. Sometimes my brush makes these dry brush strokes and I like it. I just leave it as it is. Tip of the brush, belly of the brush, some wiggle, release the pressure. Now you can experiment. If you go a little bit more, a little bit further into the yellow section, that will drag out more of yellowish color into the petals. You can try that. I can also try not to apply so much pressure on my brush. That will create more narrow petals, which is also good for the variety. And if I see some unexpected petals, I dry my brush with a paper towel and use my damp brush as a sponge. And then again, like this and like this. Now, while these two are drying, let's paint another one. Let's make nice twist here. Middle. You can even add, if you have orange, you can add a little bit touch of orange. I have just red, so I can add a couple of red dots in the mix for the variety. And then I bathe my brush in my mix. Apply pressure, release the pressure. Applying pressure, releasing the pressure. Let's see on this side. Sometimes when I lift my brush quick, that creates this dry brush stroke, but if I want to paint more refined petal, I lift my brush very carefully like this. So even depending on the dynamic with which you're painting, you can create different brush strokes. Now let's go back to this flower, because it really need one extra petal right here. And I painted on the top of the others. That will also create this transparency effect, which you know is my favorite. And a couple of petals on the top. And same for this spot. More pressure, release the pressure. This is nice. Let's add one more petal right here to support the transparency idea, like this, and right here. Now let's put our daisies on a stem. As we were using today 3 primaries, let's make it with primaries, right? Would be interesting. So ultramarine blue. If I mix it with yellow gumbosh, I will get green, but this muted green, which I think is great for our daisies. So I will start from the easiest one, from the front one. I imagine how the stem will go, and I start imaginary paint the stem, and then I paint the stem. Same here. I start from the middle of the flower. I start to planning the stem direction. It goes like here, and then it appears, and then again. And for this tilted flower, I imagine the stem goes from the middle, appears in between petals, and coming back. We can also add a couple of very typical daisies. Greenery, dry brush. I removed water on a paper towel and some just dry brush strokes around. Dry brush strokes, basically painting some mess of greenery, and our daisies are ready. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoyed the process. Please let me know in comments what would you like to paint next. And see you soon. Bye bye.